Welcome back, everybody, to Culz Reviews and our deep dive sort of into the world of Goosebumps, at least Goosebumps, The Vanishing. Today we're going to be talking episode 3, which is the haunted car. Looks like we got Greyson back, we got David, Nolan, and looks like Matt is joining us as well tonight. How are y'all doing today?
Good.
Doing pretty good. Muy bueno.
I got those Goosebumps, you know?
Just a big, hairy American winning machine. No big deal.
So, Matt, since it's your first episode in with us here, how did you like episodes 1 and 2 of The Vanishing?
Dude, I enjoy it. It's bringing back some nostalgic. Some of the books I forget about and start talking about it. It's like, oh my gosh, yes, that's right. It doesn't get done enough, and I feel like I'm sure I forget who it is. Netflix, Disney Plus. One of them's coming out with these Goosebump channels, but it's not the same. So it confuses me a little bit. But then I hear you guys talk, or I find the really old Goosebump series from 15, 20 years ago, and then it's like, okay, that's more like it.
Right. The original Goosebumps series has a very iconic, I think, introduction music. I saw somebody review it, and the intro music came on. I was like, "Oh yeah, I remember that now." Like,
dun, 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 dun.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yep.
Well, the haunted car. Greyson, do you want to give us a little brief synopsis of this episode?
There's a car. It's haunted. The shenanigans happen. That's pretty much all we're in for.
I like it. That is all
I will say. I mean, hey, look, I aim to please. That's all I can say. But to get more deeply into, just the meat and potatoes, so to speak, of the episode, it still kind of delves in, keeps the bones of the story for someone trying to convince somebody, a kid trying to convince their parents of something that they don't necessarily believe, which I appreciate. I can respect that. It was definitely a good twist on the story, but essentially it delves deeper into the character of, I always forget these kids' names. What's the name?
Alex,
that's right. Delves into Alex's story, lets her kind of get some growth and character development. But we find out why she went to juvie in this episode, and it basically follows her as she's trying to vindicate herself to her mom, because she wanting her mom to think the best of her as possible. She doesn't want her mom to think that she was the one that did it. And as she says, she doesn't want her mom to see her as a low-down criminal. So very universal story, very good, taking the bare bones of what the actual story of the haunted car is, in my opinion, and made it into a pretty decent episode, I think. So,
spoiler alert, she doesn't.
Well, did any of you read the haunted car book as a kid? Because it was series 2000.
I didn't read it, but I knew some kids who did growing up, and they would not let me read it for whatever reason, but I unfortunately was not. I was around it, is what I'm trying to say, but I never got to be into it.
Yes, I have not read this one yet either.
Yeah, same. Keegan. They didn't actually have that one at the Zoolander Center for Children Who Can't Read Good.
And want to learn how to do other things good too.
Yeah, I didn't learn how to do other things either. It was just really didn't learn how to read good either. But they didn't have that one. So no, unfortunately, I didn't have any pre-knowledge of this one or of reading that one.
So with the haunted car, the book, obviously it's vastly different, because this is really just taking the haunted car aspect and integrating it into the story, which works with the story they're telling. I think really the only scene lifted from the book was when it gets really cold inside the car, because the air conditioning was from the book. Other than that, it's very different, because it's two brothers and a dad who get this like Corvette sedan car who's possessed by a girl. And I think the twist in this one is much weaker than the Stay Out of the Basement one, as far as the book goes, because the twist is that the girl that keeps showing up that people think is the ghost is actually the twin sister of the ghost, which just doesn't make sense as a kid to always be showing up. So I just thought, like, as far as the twist worked, it wasn't as good as Stay Out of the Basement, but writing style, I mean, R.L. Stine's still really good. Not too shabby. David, how do you think Haunted Car, how well did they integrate it into the story, do you think?
I mean, I think it was good. I think they did it about as well as you can do this storyline without it being overly cheesy. The haunted car in general, I think, was a very cheesy story. Just the concept of, oh, it's a possessed car. Like, I think they did a good job of fitting in the key element of that car into this, because it does still tie in with Trey and with the element of what's going on with this, like, smoky essence, whatever it is, the ghost type thing. I also like that it does transfer into the cup that's in the cup holder there and everything to kind of set up some future stuff. I think they did a good job, and it became a compelling element of the story without being just about the haunted car. So it fit. It didn't break the flow. It didn't break the immersion of the story, and I think they did a really good job of kind of treating it realistically, in that nobody believed her that the car was driving itself. Like, nobody was like, oh yeah, Dad. They were like, you're a terrible person.
Yeah, they just kind of treated her like ass the whole time. Yeah,
exactly. And that is very classic Goosebumps, where something happens and nobody else believes you.
Yeah, I will say that's pretty good pulled from the book, because that is the element from the book where it's just the one kid that it's affecting and everyone else is like, stop stealing the car.
Exactly.
Stop stealing the car.
And then David, to your point, honestly, I think them taking the haunted car out of being like the main point of the story and making it more of a vehicle to push other segments of the story forward, while giving Alex like her own segment to delve into the character, I thought that was really well done. I thought that definitely did overstay its welcome. It did just the right amount to keep the plot moving while paying tribute to the actual storyline.
Exactly. It wasn't the sole focus, and it's a good thing it wasn't, because I don't think it could have handled much more than what we got. They had just enough to get it across without being overbearing.
Right. It definitely couldn't have been the reverse, where the whole season was haunted car would just stay in the basement, kind of sprinkled in. That works very well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I gotta say too, Chop Suey popping back up again, absolutely made the episode for me.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up later. We were talking about the music. Yeah. Any episode that starts off with 21 Savage is a winner in my book. That's just how that goes. I was like, this is a Disney Plus show, and they're out here playing 21. First song, 30 seconds in. Let's go. Like, I was all about it. Yeah, and then of course, like, Chop Suey coming back, I was like, man, that they're killing it with the music. You guys are right. They're just continuing that trend of like using great songs. But yeah, it's the overall, like, it didn't seem, excuse the like relative pun here, but the haunted car essentially drove us from point A to point B in connecting the story. You know what I mean? That is of using the whole wide arcing kind of show.
Right. Without getting caught in dumb details.
Right. And it was one of those things, like, it was a kind of like a fun episode that way, in the fact that, like, you go, oh, this is still the same show, but you're not super worried about what happened to the little, you know what I mean, like, grass bulb thing or whatever. Obviously, Dr. Schwimmer or whatever is worried about it, but it's one of those things, like, he just brings it up a couple times and it still reminds you that it's there. But, like, for the most part, the focus was on Alex in the car and the other twin, and like doing stuff. But it was just like, oh, it's kind of cool, because it is like a cool, like, transitional, like, episode essentially. And it just happens to also be about a car, which transports you, from place to place.
Yeah. I will say one thing that I was just kind of a little, I thought was odd. I guess they are setting up the sister to kind of have like a thing with Alex.
Yeah.
But
at least it seemed that way.
Yeah, and they're not very clear on it. Like, I wasn't even positive that she was like bisexual or gay or whatever until this, that made me like, oh, I guess maybe. I mean, this was the first time that I saw like the same, like, I mean, I guess you could take it maybe back to the first episode when she comes up and like uses her lip gloss or whatever. Right, there was like a flirty comment or something, but I thought that was just kind of like palling around kind of thing.
Well, that's what exactly. It was one of those things that, like, yeah, I thought exactly that. Like, thought it was like a, oh, I saw you like steal that kind of thing, like, nice lip gloss. Yeah, I thought it was like one of those types, right? Not on like a, hey, you're
Not
cute
a
and boss, you know?
right. I didn't really get that she's like, oh, I'm kind of into her.
Right.
And this one furthered that a little bit, but they're still not being very clear on where anybody stands in this.
Well,
I mean, to
when
that
it was
point, it
that,
was like, sorry, go ahead, Dave, or go ahead, Nolan.
well, sorry, I was gonna say like, but it's one of those things like they also really haven't established the sister yet. Like we've seen a lot of Devin and a lot of you know,
Trey
Dr.
and that whole
Schwimmer.
thing, yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Schwimmer, Trey, and all them. Like we've seen a lot of that, but like I don't know if you've noticed, like the sister's been super low key this whole time.
Yeah.
Almost to the point where I'm like, did the actress not say she was available for certain?
Right? It's like, yeah, were you even there for like most of this show? Because you're exactly right. It was just one of those things. Like she was barely in the second episode.
Yeah,
Like,
just kind of like that
It was a
Zoom
phone
call.
call, and that was about it. And like in the second episode, and then in this episode, she kind of comes back for a few minutes or whatever in the car, and like that's about it.
I will say, skipping ahead a little bit, Monster Blood is primarily her episode.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah,
that's the
we
next
get a
one,
lot.
so that makes
We
sense.
get a lot more about her background and like what's been going on with her. So
Yeah,
it
with
does
her.
make a little more sense moving forward. But
Okay.
up to this point, I totally agree. It was like, is
I was like,
she
I was like,
there?
there was a phone call, and then like she shows up for a minute, and like that's about it. So
I mean,
yeah.
to that,
Sorry.
sorry.
No,
Sorry,
go ahead,
Grayson.
Grayson.
Sorry,
Last-
no. What I was gonna say is like just to that point, it's like the entire like tone and the actual like the way they're just interacting with each other in the car when they're together. It's not it's not coming off as flirty. It's two girls that are friends going out and getting up to some shenanigans around town. It's not like as the song said that came up before it from Doja Cat, paint the town red. They're going out, they're just doing dumb crap. It's what they're doing. And then it felt like that one just little nugget of dialogue was just shoehorned in there just to be like, okay, so we're going to try to make this as clear for some reason right here and now that this is where this is going to go.
I almost feel
that
like
way.
it was written in as an afterthought.
I agree.
That they were like, oh, we need a little more diversity. What can we do to, you know what I mean?
And very
100%.
well probably could have happened. I mean, at the same time, it is one of those things like, yeah, because I didn't get that that vibe from the beginning. But then again, like the sister didn't even really show like any interest in any of the. Like,
Anybody. Yeah.
Let's be real here. Like you're like 17, 18-year-old kids, and like this is like a group for the summer. Like, what I mean, I've lived life. I'm sure a lot of you guys have too. Like, that's when you're about that age, it's one of those things that you're definitely checking out all the boys or girls or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, and I didn't get any of that vibe. She just seemed very indifferent.
If anything, she actually, I felt like she felt like put upon that she had to spend time with her.
Agreed.
That she was kind of being like,
I mean, she was like blackmailed into it.
Well, I was gonna say, but she was also blackmailed with the video. Like,
but that's what I'm saying. Yeah, it doesn't feel like if it was
Like
something she's like into this girl, she wouldn't have had to force her to be like, you're going to come hang out with me. So I don't know. The whole thing just felt a little weird on the, teenage drama angle of things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I mean,
not
that's
as well developed as like the Frankie Devin one, which isn't maybe the most developed yet still, but at least with those,
At least we know kind of where they stand.
yeah,
Right.
and at least they're like seem like they want to hang out, like because they're at least now more together in the episode. So
And they
And I
spent
will
more than
say-
5 minutes of screen time together.
This was also another example of them just randomly calling the poor black guy who's just trying to do his job.
TJ is his name,
And-
by the way.
Yeah, they're just trying to abuse TJ.
Abuse
she wanted to
TJ
get
and
a
his
ride.
scooter, yes.
Look, the man's stealing egg rolls out of everybody's orders. I think he kind of has it coming.
What are you talking about? All the egg rolls are there.
Yeah. Well, here's all of your egg rolls.
I stand
that
corrected.
sounds suspicious. Yeah. All of your egg rolls.
But I like it, and I like that her order. She literally ordered a side of ranch
A side of ranch, yeah.
just to get him to show up. It was
Here's
like,
your
what's the
side
cheapest
of
thing?
ranch. Yeah. My thing is like, why is it always this dude? Like, how there's nobody else that delivers food on a scooter?
We find out a little later it's a family-run restaurant. He's the only delivery person.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Why he says, "Hey, this is my livelihood. I'm not gonna let you borrow my scooter." Okay. That's funny. Okay, well, good to know. So I was like, I was thinking about that. I was like, how is this man's like the only person delivering food in the entirety of New York City?
Yeah,
Like-
I think his main story is told in The Boy Who Called Monster or whatever.
Is that what, two more episodes for that?
I think it's after. Yeah, I think it's after Monster Blood.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will say I enjoyed the interaction at the auto shop between David Schwimmer and
And the
and
dad.
Trey's dad. Yeah, where he's
Yeah.
like, "This guy's nice face. This is like Ted Bundy," and then he's like, "What'd you do with him?" And he's like, "I ate him."
I ate him.
So much rage.
Wait, I look like Ted Bundy? Like, yeah, really? You're comparing me to Ted Bundy? Yeah, that was. He's like, yeah, it's always the nice guys you gotta look out for.
And I did like that we also got a little more of the relationship between Dr. Brenner and the cop.
Ah, yes.
And that she was the girlfriend of his brother.
There's a little bit of
And
development
that she was there when the Vanishing originally happened, and it kind of alludes that she might know a little bit more about things, or is trying to keep things just in the past. So that was interesting.
Also, we got a little bit more with him and his brother, and of course that kind of like last like kind of mean thing you say, that he's just like it's haunting him now, because we see him go into that facility at the end.
They go down there, and that was and he gave him some mean words, and he ran off or whatever. So
yeah, I wish I didn't have a bigger brother, and then bam, you don't died.
And now you don't. Yeah, you get what you ask for.
And that's a
Careful what you
Goosebumps
wish for.
twist.
Yeah. Well, let's see, Greyson. Is there anything that stuck out to you here that maybe you would have changed?
Honestly, with the way the story went, I think if they were going to try to like introduce the character a little bit more naturally, like if they were going to make, Alex interested in women, I think I would have done it a little bit more naturally, or at least had it to where that might be a reveal that comes out later in in the series, where like if they were going to make that a thing, it should be something that kind of develops naturally throughout the series, not just a shoehorned in nugget to, just make it clear to the audience that that's what you're intending, instead of letting it naturally develop. And then
naturally, yeah.
Like it could have been as simple as when she's teasing her brother about liking, going up there and using bussin' all the time and stuff. Just be like, well, I don't make fun of you when you flirt with all those girls, just something like that to set it up.
To not feel like an afterthought of like, oh, what'd you do that for? Oh, I did it to impress a girl. Like, what?
Right.
Like, did it work? A little bit,
Well, to do not to spoil anything before we get too deep into the series, but I'll talk as the character develops and like this romance develops. I'll talk more about it, but there is this does end up going somewhere, and we'll talk more about it when we get to it. But it is something to see happen.
I will say, spoiler alerts, my feelings kind of remain the same the whole time.
Yeah.
It the whole time I feel like it just feels a little awkward and like, okay, I guess this is happening.
I guess this is happening. Yeah. It doesn't feel too nice and romantic to me. I guess this is happening.
Yeah, I mean it's not bad. I mean, I don't mind it. It's just it feels very artificial in my opinion.
It honestly feels like two people drew the two short sticks, and now they're just like, all right, these characters, they're together now.
It's like they looked at the cast list and was like, who's not with somebody yet?
Exactly.
We gotta pair you kids up.
Here's a love triangle. This dude's just TJ doing his own thing, and these two. Okay,
so TJ makes out with his motorcycle, and
Trey's with his car. I mean, we're good.
He makes out with an egg roll. Yeah.
But in all honesty, I probably would have used a different story for this segment if I was going to change anything, drastic. Haunted car's cool. It being a, Buick Black National, also fantastic. But outside of that, I mean, it really is just kind of there because I feel like they kind of picked this to make it a vehicle to start several other stories and kind of keep it going. But outside of that, just for what they did with the actual story they chose, I didn't think it was too bad, but I really wouldn't change too much.
Matt, what did you like most about the episode?
I think I got the assignment wrong. I was reading back through the book. I didn't realize we were talking about the TV show, so I'm gonna have to watch this one real quick to get caught up on it. I just found it on Disney Plus, so I now know what we're talking about. So my apologies. I was backwards with the assignment, so I already failed the assignment tonight.
Task failed successfully.
Then
Well,
we
hey.
look forward to hearing your opinion next week.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and I'll get caught up on all these. I got to watch the Stay Out of the Basement one and go from there.
We're on episode 3, so you're not too far.
All right.
We haven't got too far. Nolan, as far as cinematography, did you feel like it had changed at all? Obviously, it's a little bit more open world, this one. Did you see it change at all in how they filmed it?
Not too big of a change, mostly because it is one of those ones that like the car chases, like the, you know what I mean, the whole like car chase scene or whatever, that changes the speed and the pace a little bit, since they haven't really had anything like super actiony like that happen yet. So there's just like a little bit of a change on how you have to like realistically like shoot that. But I think they still did a pretty good job with it. It's one of those things like however, like watching it, it makes me wonder if there's going to be any like, I don't know, like more actiony stuff like later down the road, like in like future episodes, because this has probably been like the most like exciting one so far, with the car chases and all that kind of stuff. So I don't, but yeah, as far as like cinematography, they still keep it relatively the same for everything else, which is good. But like I said, they added that little element of like a pretty cool little like high speed car chase scene situation, right? And thought that was kind of cool that they added that in there, with her and that Murphy kid or whoever there towards, you know, I mean, relatively middle towards the end.
Oh yeah, the kid that was going to blow off their hands with
Just
fireworks.
Just dumb. I was really hoping that he wouldn't let it go.
He deserved it.
He deserved it, realistically.
I love how Alex goes, I can't get it off, and then just magically gets it off out of nowhere.
Slides it
just
off. Yeah.
tosses it nice and easy.
I can't get it. Oh, there we go. But just because I did pick the backdrop for it, because there was a Black Grand National in this episode, and their car chases were awesome, all I ever wanted was a Black Grand National. Fuck being rational, as Kendrick Lamar would say.
I like it. Grayson coming with the Kendrick bars.
Hey, I made it sound as wide as possible, and that's exactly why I'm here. So, that entire opening scene, I do want to say, was definitely, it showed that they still understand like youth and childhood, because it's just, you know, kids doing dumb shit.
I mean, realistically, that's I don't, you know, I'm sure you guys have played with fireworks. I know I've played with fireworks, and yeah, that's you do some pretty dumb, dangerous stuff with those things every once in a while. So you're exactly right. Like I was like, yeah, we've all been there. Who wants to hold this firecracker? Just ready to blow some fingers off.
You want to play chicken, man? Yeah, let's do it.
Want to play chicken? Yeah, exactly. Firecracker chicken? Yeah.
I mean, he also comes back
Ooh,
with that car chase, and he's like, "You want to play chicken in like the car?" I was like,
right.
"Okay, what's up
like,
with this kid? Like, what's going on?"
What is this? I was like, what is with this kid and chicken? Yeah, that's exactly my thought. Like, what does that even mean? You're driving next to each other. Like, that's not how you play chicken.
You
guy got it all wrong.
at each other.
Yeah, I was like, what? You can't. That's not how this works. What are you doing?
That's not how any of this works.
This isn't how any of this works. Yeah. But no, it was one of those things like, yeah, it's definitely kids doing dumb shit or whatever to illustrate it, and that's exactly how that works. You somehow light something on fire. My thing is like, where was everybody else? Like, there's like 15 kids there. Like, I don't. It's like one fire. It was like Alex was the only person that. Were you just standing next to the building, or like what were you doing?
They vanished. That's the whole point of the show.
I guess. Yeah, it's just like what I was like. There's no way they didn't see any other kids or any other people, and she's only the literal only person to take the heat. Pun intended. Like that's dumb. It's like, how does this even happen?
Well, yeah, and then she was like, "I didn't want to snitch," and it's like, okay, that seems dumb, but whatever.
Hey, dude,
right?
Snitches get stitches.
Speaking of which, she's a cop's kid. If she was going to be as quote unquote straight laced and worried about causing problems, why is she hanging out with these dudes anyway?
Yeah,
right. That's all I got to say about
that. The crowd she was with made no sense.
Right.
It's like, if you want to be, you don't want to give her like that bad girl edge, don't make her the daughter of a cop.
Yeah. Well, no, okay, so
I mean, you can, but make her more rebellious, not awesome.
Exactly.
Make her super worried. Yeah.
Right. I was gonna say like, that part doesn't match up, right? Because I mean, it's like you have like, I don't know, you have I don't know if you've seen this in real life, but you know, like pastors' kids, like some of these church kids, like they're those are always the most crazy or like wild ones or whatever, right? He's like got this
For
like
sure.
crazy like strict life. So yeah, I feel that it kind of works in that aspect, Grayson. If you look at it that way, of like, oh, she's like a cop's kid, like very straight laced, whatever kind of thing. Like, of course she's gonna try to hang out with the wrong crowd or whatever.
But yeah,
like that lens.
Yeah, like if you're going to do that, do it where like, she is rebellious, where it's like, yeah, like let's do something bigger. Let's not like, if she was really worried about like what her mom thought, she wouldn't be hanging out with those people anyway.
Right. I will say
And,
that part is the part that doesn't match up, right? Like most of the time it's one of those ones that what she should kind of fixing the character here would be if she was a like one like that super rebellious type, but that two of like well, my mom doesn't care about me, like I I'm gonna do whatever I want, kind of. She's always at work, that kind of like attitude that goes along with that of feeling like neglected, and that's why you're just kind of like a bad kid acting out. But yeah, just like especially for like to get picked up, for her to be like, mom, like, oh, like,
Exactly.
like help me out here, I didn't do it, tell him I didn't do it. And it's like,
You're gonna fix it. Like honestly,
right? Like what?
Let me run this by you guys. Like, let's just say what if they change the timeline on that? Because like they said, what happened with it, the fire was a year ago. What if that was like 2 or 3 years ago? And then like she talks about what's happened since then. And then like she talks about, how she, did some vandalism, stole some stuff, got caught doing that. And then that builds up her, repertoire of, being that, rebellious kid. Because at that point, her mom stopped believing in her. She didn't really have like, any sort of recourse not to be a good kid anymore. So she just kind of keeps going down that path. And then, that change ends up happening with her to where then nobody really like trusts her. Because I feel like, as we brought out, they just crapped on her for most of the episode. And it's like, well, she really hasn't done very much for you to really think, she's a bad kid. So there's not really.
Well, that's exactly right. It's like they didn't like build it up like that. And like, cause it's just one of those ones that it was literally this one case of her, with the firework on accident, lighting whatever on fire. And then like her like getting caught. And then like you only learn that she's like, oh yeah, I've done some like vandalism, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Like that just sounds like regular kid shit. Like, you know what I mean? That's if I was like, I'd be lying if I told you I haven't like, painted on something or whatever before, right? It's just general like kid shit. Like it's meant to be relatively harmless, you know what I mean? Just doing whatever. As long as you're not like throwing like, Nazi symbols on the wall or whatever, right? Like that's a whole. But you're exactly right. Like it's one of those things they didn't really establish that she was like this like super bad kid kind of thing like before. Instead of just just the one incident, and it's like, okay, so you messed up one time, like that sucks. Gotta like move on or whatever. And like that's really what they should have done with it, versus this like, oh well, you just keep getting in trouble, you're a juvie kid, you got whatever, like I'm not gonna believe you kind of thing. And it's just like she just, you guys painted her like a butthole the whole time. Like
exactly.
So it's like it's hard to, I don't know, it's hard to like kind of believe that type of character when like they're not like a bad character.
Exactly. And I think in all honesty,
it felt again like something that was kind of forced as a character choice.
Yeah.
They just said, oh, maybe we should have a kid that's a criminal in here or whatever. Like,
but she's a cop's kid. Oh. Yeah,
like, well, it makes it even better. Oh, like, yeah, that's weird. Yeah, just shoehorn it in like that. It's just, it does feel very not made up, but definitely not.
I agree, man. High five.
What I was gonna say is that with even like as a cop mom, like especially if anybody's had like super strict parents, even if you're the best kids, the parents will not believe you, especially if they were bad kids too growing up. So you can be as honest and truthful with them as possible. They still won't believe you. I feel like with the very first, introductions of those characters, it made more sense with like the cop mom not believing her. And they could have built off of that in a more, authentic way, because that's what a lot of overly strict parents do.
Well, no, like it's one of those things. Like even more so, it's like if you did show her like doing like all of these like bad things, like building up to it, and then this is the one that she didn't do. You know what I mean? Like then it's more believable, right? Instead of the where it's at, where she just kind of messed up once and being like, well, I don't believe you, and it's like, well, why don't you believe me? Like I've given you no reason to not believe me. You know what I mean? So
exactly.
Yeah, it's just I think they kind of went about it a little bit backwards or kind of the wrong way, if I'm being honest. But
yeah, it makes me think that this segment of her storyline definitely should have been later on in the season. And then they honestly should have picked a different story because, well, you know, it has a way to make the stories progress. They should have done something else to kind of keep it moving along.
Right.
Well, speaking of moving the story along, what did you guys think of Schwimmer's storyline as far as like finding the like goo and then using that as like a compass to get back to the base, and then he finds Trey there? I mean, how did you guys feel about that decision?
It was fine. It wasn't that much of the episode.
It was literally the last 30 seconds.
What about, did you guys think you'd be seeing Trey again after he became a monster, got squished, and became a car?
No.
Yeah,
So
you
I
never
will say
get
that
rid of
surprised me,
those
right?
guys.
The whole, you know, like, oh my God, why is this naked black kid running at me like out of the dark? But
That's New York for you.
well, that's New York, right? Welcome to Saturday Night Live. No, but it was just it's one of those things that that was rather interesting, just to have him like come back like that, because I honestly was fully expecting like him being like smooshed by the car, and then the stuff just going into the car, and now you're just part of the energy or the ether that is this goosebump black goo whatever, you know what I mean? Like, I was not expecting, because it just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, I don't know, like, because that place, if I'm not if I'm correct, is where the car drove to, right?
Yeah.
So the car drove to that place, and he happened to find Trey there also, right? Like, also, or did the car turn into Trey at that place?
No, the car is still its own thing.
Okay. And see, that's what I'm saying. I was like, but, you know, because there was no body, right? They just dropped the thing, and then like it was just but at the same time, I guess, you know, no body, no death, or whatever it is. Because I just thought it was crazy. Like, they smushed him and then it just dissipated into whatever. So it's like, I don't understand how he got from point A to point B, is what I'm saying.
In all honesty, then later on throughout the seasons, it'll start or throughout the season, not to spoil anything, it will start, you know, connecting some of those dots.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because it's one of those things that this was one of those episodes that gave me more questions than answers, you know?
But I'll be honest with you real quick. I honestly thought all Mets fans celebrated a win by streaking, but I could be wrong. But
Could be wrong.
Mets fans, don't prove me wrong. I don't need to see that.
That's okay. The Mets aren't going to win anything for a while, so I think you'll be okay.
Thank the baseball gods.
I thank the baseball gods for Shohei Ohtani.
As you rightfully should.
I was like, as anybody really should. Yeah, the baseball gods are angry at the Angels organization because they essentially squandered this man's young life. Yeah, but it's fine. We're happy to take him now and win. But yeah. So I don't know. I was just confused, but thank you for sort of clarifying that on how they're going to sort of clarify that later.
Yeah, it's really it doesn't do very well on the execution. I'm going to be honest with you, but it does get, you know, answered.
Okay. Well,
It's like metachlorians of an answer in Star Wars, to be honest with you. It's like, where's the force come
don't
from?
Explain anything.
Magic juice, you know.
What they do.
Yeah,
exactly. They do what they do. But also midichlorians. What? I thought the force was.
It just makes sense.
Everything. What? No.
See, you thought that, but it's just in the blood.
Yeah, it's just little robots in your blood that lift things.
Somehow makes you closer to the, you know, ever living force and almost, you know, your version of God in that universe. But, you know, hey, it's just your blood.
It's just your blood.
Not meditation and practice. Your blood.
Terrible retcon. Terrible.
Yeah, that's a conversation for a day. Well, Nolan, what did you think overall with this episode? Rating, recommendations?
Overall, I give this one a. Let's see, I gave it an 8, an 8.2. I'm gonna give this one a 7.3. Just because it was not the bestest of episodes. And it left me with a lot more questions than answers. But I mean, it's still continuing down the path of a good show. You know, I mean, they didn't change too much as far as, like I said, the cinematography goes. The car chase was cool. It added a little like element in there. Just mostly because it's one of those ones that I feel like most of this episode kind of took place in that car, which is kind of like a pseudo bottle episode, obviously, like when you're doing things like in a car. But yeah, overall it was kind of cool. And I think it was one of those, not necessarily a filler episode, but like an episode that isn't the most key bit. Does that make sense? Like to the story. So I guess how they integrated the another story into the previous story, I think this is probably the best way that they could have gone about it. Yeah, and then it's one of those things like obviously you make those changes to Alex that me and everybody were talking about on like just on like her character a little bit, and it would be a little bit better. But yeah, so for now I give it a 7.3 on the third episode. But definitely looking forward to chewing through some more. You know, I'm around for the long haul, sticking in there.
David, what about you? What are you rating this one?
I'd give it a 7. Wasn't terrible. Had some good elements of the book and everything. They integrated it well. I don't think a whole ton happened. There was no big revelations, nothing major. It was just kind of there to keep the story going, and I guess bring Alex into it a little bit more. But I don't find her that compelling a character, so I wasn't super like into that. But it's fine. I kind of wish Trey would have been gone for good, but of course he came back. Yeah, it was. Like Nolan said, not quite a filler episode, but kind of close to it. But I think they got done what they needed to kind of keep it going, and it does leave me excited for the next episode.
I'm glad I'm not the only one that feels like it kind of was like a halfway of a filler episode.
Yeah,
because it's kind of like that's what I meant by like that stupid joke I made earlier of like taking us from like point A to point B. It's like that's kind of just how it felt. It was like
right. There was no big steps taken.
No,
except that Trey's not dead.
Which is how we get here. You know, it's just was like how we get here. So
because even what could have been a subplot of everybody thinking that Dr. Brenner killed Trey, that even gets cleared up by the end. That clearly he's not dead. He's there.
Right. Especially when he like finds, hey, I guess I found Trey.
Yeah.
I think it's funny because like he doesn't even answer the question. She's like, "Where'd you find him?" "Oh, I found him over here." "Why are you there?" "Let's not worry about that." Like, we're just not gonna worry about that. Okay, I just found Trey. That's all that's important.
And then it was definitely a cop out that he just doesn't really remember anything.
Right. And I was like, I don't know if like I said, because you guys have seen down the road just a little bit more, if that really does like, you know, put a damper on things, or that it kind of makes it that way on purpose.
It's just kind of there, yeah.
Okay, yeah, because I was like, yeah, that relatively is I mean, it's not a cop out, right? Because like Devin doesn't really remember what happened to him all that much, like with in the first episode with the whole vines and all that kind of stuff. So like in the sewer, and he's like, I think I was pulled in there, and he was like, so it kind of follows suit, I guess, right? On people not knowing really what was going on or what happened. So
it just feels,
but, you know,
it just feels frustrating in the obscurity of it, because it doesn't feel like you really need to have like the whole memory forgotten thing. Plus, yeah, I feel like it's a dumb trope that they're trying to rely on a little too much just to kind of keep, you know, the mystery alive. But
yeah,
I feel it'll, by the end of the series, it kind of makes the mystery feel a little, I won't spoil, but it's a little misdirection-y, is the way I'll put it for right now.
We're trying to M. Night Shyamalan us.
A little bit.
Trying to Shyamalan ding dong us. I don't like that.
What? No.
Me? No.
No.
Shyamalan? No, I would never.
They're definitely trying to hit us with the flim flam, if you will.
A little chicanery.
Chicanery, if you will. Yeah. A little flim flam, little chicanery. Like, what is this business?
Grayson, what about you? What did you rate? What would you rate this one for the viewers?
I'll split it right down the middle. Kind of 7.1. Soundtrack for this season or this episode, fantastic. Definitely kind of gets you in the mood for just what's coming up next. The fact that we got to hear Chop Suey multiple times, once during like the build up and the car chase, fantastic. Honestly, it as we talked about at this point, I feel like this episode honestly does feel like just a progression for the plot. Their episode budget was, pretty much spent, but it feels like they use this as a way to kind of keep the rest of the story going. And you can kind of feel it as the show goes on that the rest of the show kind of hinges on this part of the story here. But I didn't hate it by any means. It's serviceable. It's fine. It's entertaining enough. It keeps you still engaged without making you wish like the episode was over. Yeah, I feel like with a lot of what happened in this episode, I feel like a producer was like, we need more representation. What can we do about this? And then kind of just shoehorned it in there to make it a thing. You can kind of feel some of those fingerprints throughout the rest of this season, but it's not, super noticeable, but you can notice it if you're looking for it. But overall, not too bad of an episode, to be honest with you. So I can't hate it, can't be mad at it.
Yeah. Plus, you get your Grand National in there. You get your Black Grand Eddy.
Fuck being rational.
Well,
Yeah, for me, I'd say probably like a 7.5. The more I thought of it, given the day since I watched it, it doesn't sit with me as much as like the first two, where like I can remember things better. It just didn't stick out, I guess. They still use some more songs like we've been talking, but it felt like they used them less of a time. Maybe just saving some of that budget for later on. Again, it was just like, hey, the haunted car, let's get you from here to there. I wish there had been a little bit more with that. But again, it's more about stay out of the basement and that storyline right now.
Well, if I'm being honest, I think it's because it's one of those things, like, I think this is the best way you can use the haunted car. Like, if you wanted to use the haunted car. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, this is probably about the best way that you can use it without it being too wild or weird or intrusive on the rest of the, like, stay out of the basement story.
And if you went full haunted car, it would just seem like a cheaper version of Christine, maybe Rubber. I don't know, one of the two.
Rubber is so ridiculous, by the way. I give that movie an 11.5 out of 10, by the way. So yeah, it's a great movie. Go see it, guys.
I don't know if I'd classify it as a great movie, but there's some ridiculousness in that movie.
Oh yeah, that's like I said, I wasn't totally being a shade of pink right there or anything. Yeah.
Well, Nolan, you still haven't watched the rest of this series, right? You're just watching as they go, correct?
Yeah, so for me, it's one of those things like since we're doing this like a weekly kind of thing, I definitely I watched the episode like the night before, just to like make sure it's like nice and fresh and relatively like fresh on my mind. So that way I can have a pretty good like review about it. Because if I just like binge watch the whole show, I'll like, you know what I mean? Like I'll probably get caught up on like certain details of like certain episodes. And then I'll forget, like, I'll be like, oh, that's right, that did happen. And like, you know what I mean, episode 5 or whatever, right? When we're and I'm on episode 9 or something like that. Like I'm trying to keep my brain relatively like on the task at hand, I guess. So yeah, like thanks, ADD. Because I would just probably remember like other parts of the show that are like, wait, did that happen? No, wait, that happened yet? You know what I mean? And they just end up confusing everybody. So yeah, I've been rocking the one episode a week the night before just to make sure it's fresh and getting caught up on stuff. So yeah.
Well, from your viewpoint, what do you think is going to happen in the next episode, Monster Blood?
Well, generally, like from what I saw and some of the hinting with the kombucha cup, if you will, old girl's kombucha cup with the little silvery or silky, whatever smoky stuff. Let's call it the entity, whatever the entity stuff is. It's going to be interesting. So, and like Grayson and Dave said, the next episode kind of focuses on the sister. So it's one of those ones that clearly we're going to get some sister kind of stuff here. But I will say, I think it is cool that like from what these other gentlemen have said, that everybody kind of gets like an episode that's kind of like their episode. I like when they do that sometimes, especially like in like some of my favorite shows. Like I've always loved when they give like, especially when it's like an ensemble crew or like a big group, when they give people their like their own kind of episodes, right? Like it was one of those ones that like perfect example for me is like Orange is the New Black. That first season was kind of meh, just because it kind of like focused on Piper or whatever her face is, like the first like season. It's like most of it's about her. But like Orange is the New Black got significantly better when they started doing all of the other characters around her and giving you their backstory of why they're in prison and like what they're doing, like that kind of stuff too. And Community would do that too, right? Like they'd give like, an episode to Jeff or like Annie or Britta or whoever, like they would give them like a whole episode where they're the main focus of that episode. And it was like, and it would just turn out to be like an awesome episode. You know what I mean? It's just that, and that's how it works. Like when you have like ensemble stuff. So I really like it when they do that. And the fact that they're kind of like going in the direction of that of, this character is this episode, this character is, primarily focused in this episode. It's kind of a cool idea.
Well, I think that about wraps us up for the haunted car, unless anyone had any final things they wanted to say. But Greyson, what should people be on the lookout from you?
So coming out with Companion coming out this weekend, going to be looking at that and going to be doing a review of that. So that should be up by Sunday this weekend. But other than that, just keep looking out for these football chats and these Goosebump chats, because that's where I'll be.
David, what about you? Got some exciting stuff on the horizon, it sounds like.
Yeah, we have Abnormal Voyages, of course, kicking back into gear first week of February, so stay tuned for that. And also in February, we've kind of talked about this before, we're officially launching the Society of Main Characters, where we're going to begin with our book review. And some of those main characters are these gentlemen here with me. So we'll be, coming from all different parts of the world, from literary, comedic, acting, entertainment, pop culture, everything, and all sitting down and enjoying some good stories together. That's what it's all about. So we're going to be kicking that off in February, first couple weeks there. So got a lot of good stuff cooking, kind of like what we're doing here with Goosebumps. We are going to be doing episode reviews of Daredevil coming in March, I believe.
That's what I'm super excited for. By
the way. And I think the timing has us starting that like right as this one ends. So even though Goosebumps is ending, we're going to have that whole new series to jump into. That should be really exciting. So if you're into pop culture, if you're into books, if you're into intellectual things and fart jokes, this is the place to be.
I love that so much for the simple fact that I love both of those things. The fact that it's like, and it's even better when you can work both of them into a show, right? A la like Archer or Community. It's like 1 second it's a fart joke, and then the next second it literally is like a highbrow reference.
I mean,
you have to understand to get. It's amazing. I love
if
that.
you saw one of our earlier deep dives, it's a lot in the vein of like, we're going to go from talking about what does it really mean to live and make it to an afterlife, and dovetail that right into ghost blowjobs. So
it just
we're going to run the gamut.
I love that. That's great. It's fantastic.
Yeah, that's the most infamous part of our deep dive right there.
Dive. Where did you just go like Southern Hillbilly?
Yeah. Jenny.
What happened?
It was the appellation in me.
I know what love is.
But yeah, that's what we got cooking. It's a lot of these great channels on their own. We got Culz Paranormal, Abnormal Voyages. We got Greyson's Gray Man Reviews over there. Whatever it is that Nolan does.
I might just start the Ghostbusters stuff for the most part, but I might just start a YouTube channel just to start a YouTube channel, so I just have something to plug at the end of the episode.
It's kind of like we're all our separate heroes, and then at the Society of Main Characters, the Avengers assemble.
Right.
That's pretty much what started me off too, Nolan.
I don't know. Do you guys want to watch me play video games or something? You know what I mean? I'm pretty good at those every once in a while. We just hang out, chat, something.
So actually, no, and I will be talking about video games at some point. So let's do something with that.
Yeah, dude, I'm here. Like I said, I'm in for, and that's the thing too, is like I'm definitely in for helping anybody out, channels, whatever. You know what I mean? I'm always down to talk about different things.
There you go. See the birth of a channel right there. But yeah, we got a lot coming. So hopefully you, the viewers, are ready for a very entertaining 2025.
Yes.
And Nolan, speaking of Ghostbusters and what you do, have anything on the horizon people should be on the lookout for?
Yes. So it's one of those things that it actually the episode I've been talking about for the past 2-3 weeks. They're obviously they were editing it tonight. So it's one of those things that it should be relatively soon on when we actually get the product. But it is one of those things that's Mike's been super busy. Everyone's just actually been super busy, so it's one of those things that it's a unfortunately slow process. But so they're going to go pretty hard on some editing tonight, so that's a good sign and a step in the right direction. That it should be maybe another week and a half maybe, I think. So I'm super excited about it. And I if I'm being honest, I really can't wait for people to see it. Yeah, just it's one of those things, like, because I loved your guys' like reactions for the commercials that I did, and this one's going to be a little bit more ridiculous and above and beyond that. So yeah, it's super excited to see it. A good finished product,
Yeah, no, I'm definitely excited to see. If anyone hasn't, make sure to go check out the commercial episode. It's super fun. I know Matt there can attest to that. We watched in Roswell. Matt, speaking of you, any episodes viewers should be on the lookout for that we filmed recently?
Yeah, we went to a wonderful place in the tech center called the Dam Grill, and we had some pretty interesting burgers that we're going to very much look forward to breaking down the quality of the food there, and the excitement about some of the other upcoming ones that we might have hinted at in that episode as well.
And then, yeah, we'll be, like David said, starting that series and channel with the Midnight Library. So if you want to join us and read that book, keep an eye out on the 3rd of February. We'll be live that Monday. And yeah, we got some fun things upcoming on Culz. As far as some new dinosaur ones we're working on, we got a Donald Schmitt actual talk from Roswell. He's one of the lead investigators, coming out here shortly as well. We'll be back in Roswell as always, and it sounds like there's another thing we'll be attending, but because it hasn't been announced yet, can't say too much, but next episode we'll say something because it'll have been announced by then. So stay tuned. If you want more Goosebumps stuff, bottom left is where that playlist is. For more just Culz reviews to your top left, more about us here at Culz to your top right. And don't forget to hit the like, give us a subscribe, and let us know what should we talk about on the Society of Main Characters in 2025. Tell us in the comments below.